Welcome to MCM Pro Talks. I'm Shantay Robinson, the Education Programs Manager at MCM, and tonight we're in for a real treat. Our speaker is Silas Oluyole. Did I say that right?
Yeah, you're close. Oluyole.
Oh, see, I would never get that. Oluyole. Okay,
That's good.
Silas Oluyole has years of film and television experience, but specializes in filmmaking. He is a native Washingtonian, but spent his childhood in South Nigeria, Africa, where he developed an interest in filmmaking. In 1991, he returned to the United States to pursue his interests. Upon his return to Washington, D.C., Silas started his career on a Black entertainment television show as a production assistant. This experience motivated him to learn all aspects of filmmaking, so he enrolled at Howard University's Film, Television, and Radio Department in 1997. Silas made the most of every opportunity that was set before him. In 1998, he met and sought out mentorships with renowned and accomplished filmmakers and cinematographers such as Bill Duke, Haile Jarima, and Kwasi Fante, who are current or former faculty members at Howard University. These mentorships inspired Silas to expand his talent, knowledge, and creativity in other areas using film. In 1998, Silas opened a full-service production company, Incognito Images Productions. Over the course of the years, he has developed his talent and skills with many film projects to add as an accomplished experience. He has directed short films, commercials, and program introductions, live broadcasts, public service announcements, and a host of news documentaries. In 2002, Silas wrote and directed the short film, The Color of My Mother, which won Howard University's Paul Robeson Award for Best Production. As a cinematographer, Silas has a host of independent film projects that has demonstrated his technical and creative skill using 16, Super 16, and 35 millimeter cameras. He is also a talented scriptwriter with 2 short films and 1 feature film awaiting production. Silas is a graduate from Howard University and is an active member of the Women in Film and Video Association, Washington, D.C. Office of Motion Pictures and Kodak Motion Pictures. He works for Office of Cable, Television, Film, Music, and Entertainment of the District of Columbia. Welcome to our program, Silas.
It's a long introduction.
It is. I mean, you've accomplished a lot so far. Like, what I heard you say that you're working on some films. What are you working on right now?
Well, we just finished shooting a while ago, and that one I did the documentary We Crank.
Mm-hmm.
That's about the full history of go-go,
Mm-hmm.
and the producer was Eugene Thorpe,
Mm-hmm.
and I was the cinematographer for that, and we won awards for that at Emmys. And now I'm focusing on working on my film, directing my film, and one is called Lena. That's the feature film, and I have a short film that's called In the Darkness and the Light. And the current the one I'm working on right now is called Oba, and that's the shortest film now because I wanted to do something really, really small. And Oba means king in Yoruba. And hopefully everything goes well. We should be shooting that this summer on a motion picture Super 16 film camera.
Awesome. So I know with like the digital age that we're in, is it common for people to still use film cameras, or are more people using digital cameras right now?
Well,
what do you prefer?
It depends on what you're doing.
Mhm.
It depends on your outcome. Like every day I work with digital cameras, but for film, like all the motion pictures, like the feature films, they're really good. They still shoot on film. All the films that you see in theaters, they're all on film.
Mhm.
And they all the other cameras they use like mostly for series, like if you're shooting on the series, but they still shoot on film because film has a better latitude, the quality is better. And no matter how much you develop digital, it's a technical side that you see that the naked eye can't see. So, but film is just a better quality, and it has a wider range of latitude, and it's but the way I describe film to most people, film is like driving manual,
Mm-hmm.
and digital is automatic. And not to get technical, if you film is just like the old film, still cameras, is when you put the film stock in it, it's silver halogens. So it responds to light, and it has different film stock. But in digital, it's just one ASA. And it's really, people think they're really shooting, they're not. The camera is scanning the image, like in your printer. When you print something at your personal printer at home, and it's scanning, it's going
Mm.
from left to right. That is exactly what your camera is doing. That's why
Oh,
when you blow it up,
I
everybody
see.
said, why does it look so grainy, and there's a lot of
Yeah.
pixels? It's
Mm-hmm.
because it was scanning. It's
Scanning.
not it wasn't recorded the image like film does. If
Oh, that's
that's the best way I
that
can
was a
describe
good little tutorial you just gave us. Thank you for that.
it. No problem.
I don't, because I know like back in like the 90s when digital cameras first started coming on the scene. Remember Spike Lee did Bamboozled? He did some of it on
And
the.
he immediately went back to film.
Yeah, it did look good. It did look good.
He said he would never do that again. To tell you how dedicated he is to film, even when he shot the documentary for the the water banks that broke in
Oh, the levees when the
the
levees broke.
levees, he shot the whole thing on film.
Mm,
Everything, interviews, B rolls, A roll, everything on film. He learned a valuable lesson because,
yeah.
but in defense of Spike Lee during that time, anything new, digital hasn't worked out the kinks very well at that time. They just hit the market.
Mm-hmm.
So there was a lot of error and trial errors. So it's it, the best way I could describe in digital. If you mess up, if you mess up, it's very small room to fix it. And if you
Mm-hmm.
try to fix it, it's going to cost you more money on the long run. It's almost like you putting when they tell you don't put cheap brakes on your car
Yeah.
because you could and it starts squealing and it doesn't stop when you're supposed to stop. That's when it starts. And so they had to fix it. But because it's still because it scans, there's a limitation. Now, if you're just taking like what we're doing right now and you put it on streaming, it's beautiful, but you can't blow it up. Like
Mm-hmm.
Super 16 film camera, you could blow it up to a 35 millimeter, and that's what you could blow it up to an IMAX, and it's still going to keep its image. You can't do that in digital, so you have to redigitize it all over again to fit
Mm-hmm.
that format to where you want to make it bigger, so you don't lose the grain. It's not grainy, and the quality doesn't take a left turn. So like I said, it's about what you want to do. If you want to make it quick and dirty, fine. It's beautiful. But if you want to make it where you want to send a different form, now it's going to cost you to reprint that and to reformat it. And then each time you dub it over, there's a possibility you might lose the work. But we've coming up with technology where you can really do it, but it's going to cost you too at the same time.
Yeah, well, those weren't my initial questions. I just thought that that was interesting that you still shoot on film. But I'm going to get into my questions
I do
now.
shoot on
So,
digital
yeah,
every day.
yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, because I just I didn't know people were still shooting on film, but that
Oh,
was,
they still do.
yeah, and that's awesome. So, I know you went to Howard to study media. Um, can you trace your journey to Howard? How did you come to from Howard to the office? I want to talk about your career. How did you
Okay.
come from the office? I mean, from Howard to the Office of Cable Television, Film and Music and Entertainment with the District of Columbia.
Um, that's a very. I'm gonna try shortening as much as possible. Um, being that I was at Howard and I was studying, and how I came to Office of Cable Television, it was during Marion Barry's era,
Hmm.
and I was still in school, so but I was on another. I took time off during my break. I was in Virginia shooting an independent film called Furious Seasons.
Mhm.
So I missed, so my stipend that was left over from my financial aid, the little check I was looking, it was really big to me back then. So they had, I couldn't get it. So I had to go to the boss's office at the 441
Mhm.
to go get it. So they told me it's there. So when I got there, a funny thing, it was the day they were shooting Enemy of the State in front of the building of Will
Ah,
Smith.
yeah.
So
Interesting.
so all the film equipment was there, and they didn't want to let me in the building, but I finally was able to make it. Say I'm a student, I'm trying to get my. So when I got in the building, being the type of person I was looking for work because I just finished, so I had my resume with me.
Mhm.
So I commend Marion Barry for this because I walked in cold. I didn't even have a interview set up. I just I looked at the directory and I saw the communication director communication, and I just caught the elevator up there and I said I knocked on the door. I said, I know you can't even say that. I said, are you guys hiring? Believe it or not. But I was still in college, so I had nothing to lose.
Right.
So I said, are you guys hiring? And the lady at the front desk looked at me. She said, do you have an appointment? I couldn't lie and say I did. They said, who you here to see? So I said, I don't, but are you hiring? She told me to have to my below with her. She told me to have a seat.
Mhm.
So the communication director was in the office. I could hear in the back in the office laughing because I was
Mhm.
sitting in the lobby. So after 15, 20 minutes, they told me to come in. So I went inside and she took a look at my resume and she said, you know what, young man, I'm gonna give you a chance. So she called the director of Office of Cable Television at that time, and she said, when can you show up? I said, as soon as possible. And that's how I showed up at Office of Cable Television the following day. But I was a
Wow.
freelancer. I
Mhm.
got there, I was a freelance, and mind you, I was nervous because it was my first working really television trying to because I
Mhm.
was doing film. It's funny, I did it backwards. Some people learn television first and then they go to film. I learned film first and then I went to television.
Mhm.
So it was a transit I was learning, and I started freelancing and it was a trial and error, and they liked my work. I was on time, diligent, and so I worked there. I worked as a freelance for a year. There were like there were a good chunk of us because they had a database.
Mhm.
So a database. They had like 20 of us that were technicians. We did the lottery, but what I did because I was young, I didn't care what they gave me. Coming from a production assistant and assistant cameraman, I didn't care. I learned how to direct, director. I learned how to be a technical director. I was a sponge. I was hungry. So I went for everything. I learned how to do the CG. I learned how to do the teleprompter operator. I learned how to do the floor manager. So basically at that time, what made me valuable, and I didn't know that. So when they were trying to cut back, they said we're keeping Silas because we could put him anywhere. They didn't have the
Mhm.
training. I did cross training on
Mhm.
everything. So
Awesome.
and lighting was my specialty, and I brought that to the table too. So I was lighting the studios for the shows, and we
Mhm.
did lottery. That time we used to do manually do lottery on the show, and I would
Mhm.
direct that live. That was my first live show that I had to do every day at 12 o'clock and at 8 o'clock every day.
Awesome.
So and
Well, that's it. It shows, you take a little initiative. You don't know where that could take you, right? Just
absolutely
walk out on faith and just ask, right? That's
yes, and
awesome.
it was, and so a year later, when they were cutting back who they wanted to keep, and then they kept me and they made me a permanent. They made a couple of us, and they cut all the freelance back. They said they don't need freelance, and again because there was a different transition for every administration. So that's how I
Mhm.
became permanent. But what I still maintain, I still work freelance for the companies and people. And word got out because I just get my phone will just ring and they'll just like you did, you pick call me one
Yeah.
day. So I get
I
phone
still
calls
we
like
s-
that.
we still got some conversations to have. I'm not done with you, Silas,
Okay.
but we're gonna get through this pandemic first.
Yes.
When you were young, you developed a passion or an interest in media production. How did your interest come about? Like, what about media? Was this in Nigeria, or what about media made you want to be a filmmaker?
That's when you like something subconsciously. When I was born in DC,
Hmm.
then I went back to Nigeria with my parents. And when I started, I liked art.
Hmm.
Technically, when I first came back, I went to school for pharmacy. That's imagine that. Can you see me doing pharmacy? And I started it, but I didn't I didn't know I wanted pharmacy, but it was a teacher. I can't remember her name. It was a teacher that made me realize that when I wrote a paper on Duke Ellington,
Hmm.
and I really enjoyed it. And I just wrote the paper real, and then I got real creative writing the paper about Duke Ellington.
Hmm.
And my teacher read the English teacher. She read my paper, and she said, "I want to talk to you after the class." And I mind you, I was a pharmacy major, and I was already encroaching on doing. I was about to take. I was taking organic chemistry.
Mm. I heard
I
about that.
reached organic
Mm.
chemistry, and the teacher said, "I could tell your work is coming through this paper." She said, "What do you really want to do?" But because I had African parents, I did what my father told me to do. So
Hmm.
I said, I'm studying pharmacy. And she looked at me, she said, "This doesn't seem like a pharmacy student that write to write this kind of." And she said, "What do you really want to do?" I said, "Well, I like movies, but I don't know where to begin." So I said, I like movies that I would like to do movies. But I thought it was such a far reach because I thought you had to go to Hollywood to
Hmm.
be a filmmaker. I didn't know anything. And I commend the teacher. She just said, "Why don't you just start reading up and do some research?" And I started doing research, and I I started doing, and I realized and I had to figure out where I wanted to be as a filmmaker. Do I want to be a director? Do I want to be a cinematographer? And I would later on I would tell you how I became a cinematographer. Because initially I wanted to make movies as a filmmaker, but I
Hmm.
wanted to be a director. But my mentor, my immediate mentor, and I just say God has a way. He knows who to put in your path that will shape your path for you. So my mentor was a cinematographer, and my other mentor, Haile Garima, he made Sankofa, and luckily, and then Bill Duke came in, and then me and Bill, and I guess one key they always said that we could taste the hunger that you're hungry. So I said I is to tell you how I would be honest. The my film classes in my undergrad, I didn't really study for it
Hmm.
because I loved it so much. I I did I just did it. It
Hmm.
was the other class I had to go read upon to get knowledge. But my film class I just consumed because it was 24/7 that I consumed myself with
Yeah.
film stuff. So and that's how I became leaning from I started directing that. I said I need to be a script writer because I said, okay, I wanted to be a director. So my mentor said, okay, and that's how I wound up at UDC. I started with the film television department,
Hmm.
but however, because they didn't have a film department at UDC, and my teacher at that time was I can't remember his name offhand.
That's okay.
Rocky Jones, that's his name.
Okay.
Rocky Jones. And Rocky Jones, he was a professor, part-time professor at UDC and at Howard. And he told me, he said, you need to come over to Howard because
Oh.
that's where they have the film school.
Mhm.
So I applied at Howard and I transferred. All this all by myself. My
I
parents
was
were
going
in
to ask
Africa.
you. I was going to ask you what did your parents think about this? Because they wanted you to
Oh,
be a pharmacist. What
well, my
happened?
father came to visit in DC, and my father was with my uncle. So I waited. Imagine, see, it's different for children in Africa. You may be grown, but you're still a child in front of your parents' eye. So
Mhm.
I was in college, and I had switched my major, everything, but I didn't tell my father. He was under the impression I was still being a pharmacist, but I've taken a turn. I've already been a
Right.
film student. I was going to film school, but I just didn't know how to tell him I'm going to film school. So I remember the night, it was on 14th and Oak Street in the evening. He was inebriated. He wasn't drunk, but he had a good buzz when he was
Mhm.
drinking with my uncle. And I told him, I said, this is round that he's intoxicated. Let me just throw it on him at this point. I said, I'm studying communication. And he said, and with his African, he said, communication? He said, what is that? Because all he knows is pharmacy, lawyer, engineer. So he said, what's communication? He said, hmm. So he didn't say anything. He was so the following day he called me. He said, you were saying something about communication. This time he had sobered up. He said, you were saying something. Can you repeat that to me, please? And I said, oh shucks. So I said, I'm a film, I want to do film. And he's film. He said, I said, like making movies. He said, making movies. He was quiet because he's African. But one good thing, after he did that, he said, he came back to me like the following day. He said, let me think about it. And so he went to do his own research. He said, and he came in, he says, it's a good, lucrative business because my father's all about how much you're going to get paid.
Mhm.
So he said, well, if that's what you want to do, and I remember he said, that's what you do. He said, I support you. He said, but if it doesn't work out, don't say I didn't tell you not to do it.
Right.
And then
That's
he said,
good. So how did you said there's a story behind how you became a cinematographer rather
yes.
than a director. What's that story?
Well, because I already started shooting at, uh, at my job at Office of Cable Television while I was still at Howard. So I was honing my skills on two places. I was shooting on film
Mhm.
at school because at school, everybody wanted me to shoot on their projects because I didn't have a film camera then. So we had to book the film cameras. So everybody, they said, I want something. And word got out the way I shot somebody's film, they for their film project at school, their
Mhm.
assignment. So everybody, the direct, all the students said, I want him to work on my project. I want him. So it was a win-win situation for everybody, for me and for them, because I was trying to work on everybody's project.
Mhm.
So I could, because I just wanted to get my hands on the camera. Because
Mhm.
when I worked the film sets, I couldn't get my hands on camera and I'm just gonna be blunt. Being African American and little to no experience, what they expect you just to be a PA. They didn't want you to be around the cameras, and also especially if it's union, and it was just a man, and we don't get too many opportunities. It just started to get opportunities now. So I
Mhm.
was so when I went back to school, I was trying to get my hand on cameras and anything that I could get. So, but my lecturer, his name was Kwesi Fanti, Jean
Mhm.
Reno. He was teaching cinematography one at Howard, and lucky for me, he was where I worked at Office of Cable Television. He started working there,
Mhm.
so he was the chief photographer. So I was under my mentor at work and at
Mhm.
school.
Mhm.
It was a plus and it was a minus because he was constantly critiquing my work. Even at work, I would shoot something. He said, "Now he will put it back on the screen and he'll be dissecting it and tell me you didn't like this spot, your camera worked this way, your focal length. He was working with me then. So, and then I was getting in school because one time, one of the we shot something, and because when you work and you direct and shoot, they put it on the screen in school, and all the he all my I was dazzling my classmates. They was like, "Oh man, so beautiful! I
Yeah,
can't
yeah.
believe we all students." And he, after the class, he was looking, and he looked at me. He said, "You ain't do nothing special. I've seen you." He said, "They may fall for that." So
That's
I said, "Well,
funny.
I'm gonna ride the victory while they don't know."
Right? They don't know. So,
So
yeah. But okay, so there's typically no success without struggle. What are some moments in your career where have you ever encountered a moment in your career where it seemed like was a roadblock, maybe with your job or maybe your freelance work or anything like that?
oh, there's plenty of rope. I'm gonna give you one good example. I have obtained a film camera, and I've already been freelancing, but it's so limited again due to there's no way you could talk about profession where you don't talk about racism.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm gonna give you one example. I'll never forget it. The lady's name was Crystal. I won't say last name. It was for Think. It was called Think Film,
Mm-hmm.
and that's when Steven Soderbergh and George Clooney were doing a documentary for HBO, and they were looking for a cinematographer. And I heard, and I made an appointment. Say I wanted. So their office was located at DuPont Circle. So I went there, and the lady could not fathom that I was this young, and I had the experience. And when I knew I wasn't going to get the job, she asked me, "Are you sure you have a film camera? You're not mistaking it for a digital camera?"
Oh, that's
And that's
very
and that's when it was a
condescending.
huh?
I said that's very condescending. Like you don't know what a
Yes, it,
camera is.
it was it was hurtful, and I knew, and I stopped the interview. I said, "Don't worry about it," and I said, "Can I have my resume back?" Because I knew you weren't for you to tell me that, "Are you sure you have a film?" I've been shooting with
Right.
my film camera, that, and you're telling me, "Are you sure that I'm not mistaking a film camera for a digital, small digital Super 8 camera?" And I said, "Okay, fine." I took the negative, I turned it to a positive,
Mm-hmm.
and it. Just motivated me more that I want to do my work. But I get obstacles like that when I go on film sets, something independent, and they see me and they question me. They want to question me, say, "Do you have a light meter? Are you sure you want to do that? Are you sure do you know what you're doing?" You get obstacles like that, and sometimes, because I was younger, I don't get that now because I'm much older and they know who I am. But when I first started the business, I got a lot of challenge obstacles that it was hurtful. You heard a lot of no more than yes.
Mm-hmm.
But I just kept chewing at it. And
Mm-hmm.
the beautiful, though, one of the success that I obtained, when I started doing commercials for, I was hiring my mentors to come and work for me.
Mm. All right. Power
And my
move.
mentors, my colleagues, I would hire my friends. Like the cinematographer that did Martin Luther King
Mm-hmm.
with Ava DuVernay.
Selma.
He worked, huh? He worked for
Selma.
me, huh?
Okay.
Yeah, Selma. He worked for me. And one of my first when I first started directing, and obstacle I to fill in the gap, I stopped directing for a while,
Mm-hmm.
and I didn't even do work. I stopped, and that was due to my late wife had passed. And I've remarried since then, but my late wife passed,
Oh,
and
okay.
it just threw me,
Yeah.
and I couldn't, and it was so much in my life. I just stopped working. And people stopped calling me after a while because I just didn't even answer back. So I just recently started, not too long ago, getting back and doing work again
That's
for the
good.
people.
That's good. I'm sorry to hear that your wife passed. Sorry.
Thank you.
Um,
I'm remarried and I'm
you're
fine.
happy now. Good,
Yes.
good, good things. So, what are some general challenges about being a filmmaker besides race or personal things? Like what's the most challenging thing about being a filmmaker?
Funding is
Yeah,
one
tell me
great,
about it.
that funding is an issue. Again, funding is hard, period. And then being a minority is even harder. People always wonder when they say, why does another race do an autobiography of like an African American or a Latino? Because they won't give funding to that person. They're more comfortable giving funding to that person to do another race story. That's you speak that.
Mm-hmm.
And obstacle learning is try to find a good niche, because most people, you wind up seeing, they're seeing cliche for you to carve out a story, because that was the first thing they taught us in film school. You want to make something that something hasn't nobody has seen before, that's something different. Nobody wants to go see the same thing every day.
Mm-hmm.
So you want to make something that's going to challenge somebody to go out and see. And
Mm-hmm.
it's hard because things are changing all the time, and you want to make something. And no disrespect, America has a short attention span. So we can't make, back when I was growing up, they made movies for 2.5 hours, 3 hours. Nobody's sitting in the movie theater for 3 hours anymore. They
Mm-hmm.
wanted maximum 90 minutes, and that's pushing it.
Mm-hmm.
That's it, to try to condense that. And it's a challenge, but it's a good thing. And now another thing, the it's a plus and a minus. All the digital media
Mm-hmm.
and all these different outlets like
Mm-hmm. Oh
Netflix,
God, there's so many. So
Hulu,
Hulu,
all these
HBO
people,
Prime. Yep.
Prime. That it, because if you notice, the Hollywood actors before, they said, "Oh, I don't do that." Back in
Yeah,
the
now
day,
they're doing it.
they're going for it because they know that's where the money is, and they're
Yeah.
still getting seen.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a transition. It's been a transition because back in the day, that they will feel an insult that you even
Mm-hmm.
offered them. Like if you look at Prime, you see this Samuel Jackson was on In the Bank, and that was on Apple TV. So
Mm-hmm.
it's everything is, so it's constantly evolving. It's a good thing, and but those are the challenge and challenges now. Like you mentioned, film.
Mm-hmm.
People want to do film,
Mm-hmm.
but they don't know anybody who knows how to do it anymore,
Mm-hmm.
because it's manual. And we kind of have a lazy society where digital is a great medium, but it makes you be very lazy and not how to do work, because you're just pushing buttons. You're not figuring it. Okay, how does this work? Then you I would say this for the younger people, they don't want to learn how to the convention of the craft.
Mm-hmm.
So if you don't understand the convention, you're gonna violate, and then you're having problems. And
Mm-hmm.
then it's a trial and error. But those are the, and script writing, writing stories, that's what. And I had to learn to find my voice. I would say script writing was one of my greatest challenges because I didn't want to do it,
Mm-hmm.
but what made me do it because I knew the story I wanted to tell,
Mm-hmm.
and I had to sit down and write it.
Mm-hmm.
And the challenge there, and then even after I wrote it, I was scared to show anybody. I say,
Yeah.
okay, they're gonna clown me when I show it. So when I wrote it, I would write a little bit. I showed my mentor. They were more technical, and then my other man, and I showed other people that are in the industry that I trusted,
Mm-hmm.
and I got the good feedback.
That's
But
good.
it got better as I kept writing and keep trying to
Mm-hmm.
find my voice. Because script writing is easy and it's not easy at the same time.
Yeah.
And you when you write, and to write something different is. and then after that, then you have to convert it into an image.
Right. That's another challenge. So
And
I know like there you mentioned a lot of challenges. You had some struggles, like struggles with race, things like that. But what is the thing that when you're working, what makes you say, yes, this is why I'm doing this. This is the reward for being a filmmaker. This is a reward for all the challenges that I have to face. What about filmmaking makes you feel good about it? What do you like most? What's most rewarding for you?
it's different aspects that like is the spectacle,
Hmm.
the to it depends. Because if I'm working being a cinematographer, if I'm not directing myself, to know I could take somebody's vision and
Hmm.
funnel it through a camera to and for audience to see, it's very rewarding to see
Hmm.
that. You and there's a nonverbal language in cinematography that I enjoy that you people just look most of the time, people looking at TV, but they don't know what they're looking at most of
Hmm.
the time because they're so engulfed with the actor, but they don't see everything else
Yeah.
that's saying the clothing, the lighting, the camera placement, the movement. That's what so it's rewarding when I see that. It's and how everything comes together completely. The sound effects, the texture.
So you're more interested in the whole package,
Yes.
the thing. That makes sense. That makes
Because
sense.
sometimes when I feel a good film, I'm gonna give an example. 12 Years of Slavery. I've
Yeah.
watched that film over and over because sometimes you're watching, you don't catch everything, or you have to go back and watch it. And that's this kind of style I've developed in
Hmm.
making my films that you I'm putting everything in there, but you got to go back and they say rewind so I can see that
Right.
what he's played, the gesture.
How would
And that comes huh?
Go ahead.
That comes with your writing because and what you're trying to say as a director and a screenwriter and as a cinematographer because I'm wearing all three hats when I'm creating. For example, and working with actors, you try to like people give people are saying a whole lot without saying anything,
Hmm.
even with the everyday gesture.
Hmm.
Like for example, if I wanted to say, like when I'm working with actors and I tell the actor, I want you to be docile towards him.
Hmm.
It's up to you how you want to do that.
Hmm.
But I'm giving you room. I'm giving you the but I'm giving you room how you want to do that.
Hmm.
Now, she could just go and kneel beside him, but she's not at the same height. She's
Hmm.
establishing that. So those are the things that you see in the body language that I have to create. That
So yeah. So how would you describe the job of a cinematographer?
the job of cinematographer is take what's on paper and the director's vision and convert that into a full scene of what the director's doing and a sequence of that, the lighting mode, the texture, and
Hmm.
then I know I'm talking more about cinematography, but I'm directing. It's like I'm switching hats when you do it,
Right.
and the good thing about it because sometimes I'm helping the director, being with my director's hat. The director can't communicate what he wants to communicate, or she, but I kind of could get what they're trying to say. So I have to switch hat and then come back to a cinematographer because, like for example, if you came to me as a director and say, I want it to be red,
Hmm.
I'm looking at you, okay, what shade of red are you talking about?
Hmm.
My red, could what I'm thinking in my head is different from your. So I always encourage people go and find stuff that or pictures and everything that's close to what you're trying to say. so we could look at it together before we even touch the camera. There's a let's
Yeah.
look at this together. So I know I have an idea what you're really trying to say. So that's the things of a cinematographer has to do. Then I always ask, I say, what's the color palette? What camera you want to use? What's the format? Because that all those things really establish what you're trying to do. And sometimes I've been with directors as they initially thought they want to do one camera, and so we do a test. So we shoot on different cameras and different lenses, and we go back and we start looking at, and the director could see that, oh, I want to shoot with this camera. I want to shoot with a film camera. I didn't think I wanted that, but now that I'm looking at it, that's what I want.
Oh, I have so many questions, but I'm gonna move on.
Go on. I
We can
hope
have
I'm
this.
answering your
You
questions.
are answering like what you're saying is making me because when you say when you said the director is like I want to shoot with film instead of digital, I'm like, so how do you reconcile the money that it's going to cost? I have a lot of questions about all of this. Like everything you say, it could go down a rabbit hole. But I want to like keep us going on this track where we're talking about
Yeah.
MCM. So at MCM, we educate our community on media production. What are some of the most important considerations you make when you're producing content?
When I'm producing content,
When or like being a cinematographer or director, what are some of your most important things that you think about?
um, how much are you trying to pack into the content at one time?
Mm-hmm.
Because sometimes I have to deflate the producer or the director. That the director said, "Oh, I can hear a producer. Oh, we want to shoot this. We want." I said, "Do you have money for a crane?"
That's what I'm saying.
I
That's what
said,
I'm saying.
"I
My
said we
first
could do
thought is
that."
to go to money. Like, how much is that gonna cost?
Oh, they said, "I want it to be raining." I said,
Like,
"Well, it's not raining today. We have to go get a raining machine and a fountain and a crew." I said, "Do you have money for that?" So and then sometimes we just go with digital. Sometimes we don't shoot film, and we do digital, and we love digital. If we're going straight to streaming or we're going straight to television, I wouldn't suggest you shoot on film.
mm-hmm.
I wouldn't even suggest that. But if you want to shoot that, you want to show that film festival, or you want to enter into like you want to turn it into Hulu, or you want to turn it into and it's a feature film. That's when
Mm-hmm.
I say you might want to look at film. And I try to instead I have to educate. And when I sit down with the person and they tell me what they're trying to do, that's what I try to offer. That this
Mm-hmm.
is what you want to use, and this is the latitude that you have.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that makes sense. It's the bottom line is money.
Yes,
Um,
sir. That's what I said.
what's some advice you can give to somebody who wants to venture into a career in film?
Do a lot of studying and to learn about film. And I just say, don't learn about just film, learn digital, film, everything, because it'll make you a better person with experience.
Mm-hmm.
Because it will teach you how to make solid decisions with work. Uh, that's the first thing, and study a lot. Because I'm still studying.
Mm-hmm.
No, you never graduate. They say, "Oh, I know, I don't need to know." Yeah, I'm still studying. I study other colleges because I still look at other people's work.
Mm-hmm.
Their director, like one of my favorite directors, because Steve McQueen is one of my favorite directors,
Mm-hmm.
and I have cinematographers that I really love their work. Um, but that's a thing I would tell people that you need to study a lot. You might have to cut back a day or two from going out to partying and
Mm-hmm.
just read. But now, good thing I always say, there's so much resource now. You can't say
Mm-hmm.
you don't have access to
Yeah, it's true.
study. I mean, you have the internet. You have courses now. They take master classes on
Online. Mm-hmm.
on YouTube. There's
Mm-hmm.
plenty of that to learn if you're really serious, because what you learn, that's you're gonna have to put in work, and
Mm-hmm.
there's no shortcut about it.
Yeah. That's
That's the
true.
advice I give to the younger folks, that develop a serious work ethic, because I see the younger folks, the and I attributed that they're young.
Hmm.
It still needs developing, that nobody's gonna give it to you.
That's my next question. So we have a youth media academy where we work with
Uh-huh.
students 11 to 17. Do you have any advice for what young media makers who want to be filmmakers can start doing now before they, get into college or um
Yes,
yeah, what's that?
I was to watch a lot of movies, commercials. Like for example, I would say venture outside of your scope. Watch a lot of, like, to start in a short one. Watch a lot of commercials in other countries. You could YouTube
Hmm.
it, like commercials in France, commercial in Germany, commercial in Italy, because they infuse their culture. And it's very funny, actually, when you look at their commercials, then you
Hmm.
venture into their films, because it will broaden your thinking when you want to do your project, that you're not just in a pigeonhole. That's what
Hmm.
I would say. Just look at a lot of projects and films. Look at a lot of movies, and that's what, not what you like. And I always say, don't watch just what you like.
Hmm.
Watch something that's you normally wouldn't watch. Like if you like rap a lot, go to a rock concert. Don't say, "Oh, I don't." That's not my thing. No, go in there. You'll be surprised if you walk in there. Or country, you might go,
Hmm.
and all these different genres. You have to expose yourself to that.
Hmm.
To I would give a good example. Lenny Kravitz.
Hmm.
Lenny Kravitz didn't was really into he wasn't into rock and that kind of music. He said when he went to go visit his father in California, and he said they shoved the surfboard in his hand, and they said, let's go out to the beach and get a surf. And see, that's how he got into that whole genre on that end.
Hmm.
So, but he didn't say no.
Hmm.
He went for it. So
Hmm.
that's the advice I would give the young kids, that not just TikTok, but go
Hmm.
outside of TikTok and look at other things.
Yeah, yeah, that's good. So, what are some aspects about being a filmmaker that you think the public don't know or not aware of that, are some things that you have to do or some, some things that, because filmmaking looks glamorous on the outside. We see it and it's just like, oh, I love movies. It's just beautiful. Everything's put together. What are some things about filmmaking that the public just doesn't know?
Well, the other about filmmaking is it's a lot of details. Like, let's say when you're writing your script, it always starts about when you write the script. You write the costume, your character, even the basic clothing what your character wears. You have to get into the psyche of your character, so
Hmm.
what your character will wear, and what your character puts in their house,
Hmm.
the subject. Those are details. Everything is very detailed. Wardrobe, set design, because all this is encompassed in making. I'm coming, sweetie. I'm on the phone. All this is encompassed in what you have to do. So I would say you have to do all of those things,
Hmm.
and that's what it say. You have to. How do you say your question? I think your question again is, you're saying that
But
what they have
what
to,
does the
what the
public
details they
not?
have to do. Yeah, it's what the details that they have to do. It's
Oh, oh,
okay.
sorry.
Look, that somebody else is joining us.
Yeah.
It's the details that people not looking at. It's a lot of work, and a good way. Like one day, how I showed my wife, she said, "I've been watching movies all this day. I never paid that." I said, "If you want to know something, especially anybody, a good way to start at the end of a movie, just sit there and pause and look at the credits and start looking. What does this person do? What is this person? And that way, then you start to have an idea that this is what it takes
Hmm.
to make a film. Because, like you said, you see the glamour, but nobody sees the dirty work. Like, you have to go do location scout, sites survey. When you do the location, you got to see when the sun is in the morning. Is it favor you to shoot in the morning, or does it favor you to shoot in the afternoon, or does it favor you to shoot in the evening? You got to go back there and take pictures at different hours so you know where the sun is and where your subject is going to be. So those are things nobody knows. And you
Yeah.
got to look at, then you got to sit having meetings upon meetings. Like, for example, I'm facing a challenge right now. I'm trying to find an actor that could speak my native tongue and that could speak English at the same time. There's a plenty of actors, but where I have to find an actor that could speak Nigerian and
Mhm.
understand it and then speak English at the same time, I'm having a little problem finding actor like
But
that.
I just wrote an article about Nollywood for the Smithsonian Magazine. There's so
Yes,
many. I mean, like there's so many actors. Like, could you like? I don't
I
know.
checked
You would,
some,
yeah.
but it's not what I really
Not what
want.
you want. Not what you want. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
is everybody said because they said, "Oh, I can act." Yeah, but you don't fit what I'm trying to do,
Oh.
and
Okay.
so so it gets. So I found an actress, and I have a couple of them, but we're still working on it because they have to be Native American, and then the actor
Oh.
has to be African American, so with African background.
Mhm.
So those are the things we're working on. So, but overall,
Do you have like a
it's a
timeline?
well, we're trying to shoot in August, so I'm on the timeline. So, uh, because I have to see, that's another thing. After travel, you have to travel out your own pocket to meet
Mhm.
actors,
Mhm.
and I'm doing that. I was in New York last weekend. I mean, last week. So to meet an actor, and you have to sit down and you get a feel, and all those things you have to do. So it's a lot of work. It's a lot of
Mhm.
work and detail. Sometimes you even write your script and you say, "Oh, that's not working. I got to go change
Mhm.
the script, some parts of the script." It's a
Mhm.
lot of what lighting,
Mhm.
crew. Crew is a lot of work. It's a lot of crew. You got to get a key grip. You got to get a grip. You got to get a DP. You got to get a director. You got to get an assistant director. You got to get an assistant director 1 or 2,
Well, if you need help,
producer,
let me know.
non-producer. Huh?
I said, if you need help, let me know.
Okay, I would definitely. I
I
would
mean, I
give
asked
you a
you for
call.
so many favors already. I'm just like, whatever, you know.
No, I always take help as much as I can, and but it's work. People only
Mhm.
see the other end, but it's a lot of work and patience. And here a lot of no's. You have to go get insurance. You have to
Mhm.
open
A
suggest as you make it
LLC,
bigger. You got your LLC because nobody's going to give you a check. They
right?
say just make it to me. They say no 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 no. You got
Right.
to let's make it to your company so they know they feel that you're making to a legitimate company. Then
Mhm.
you have to make and trying to find another suggestion, I have to find like-mind people because I have a
Mhm.
colleague that he's really in the field that I work with, and is it makes things easier if both of you on the same page,
Mhm.
that or she that
Mhm.
helps because you work on their project and they work on yours,
Mhm.
so
That's
it
good.
helps.
Yes, definitely having a community of people to pull from helps as a filmmaker, I'm sure.
And then you
Um,
could use other people's home. We've used other people's apartments, homes to shoot,
mhm. I mean,
and
yeah.
it's everything.
So,
Permits.
what are some of your pet peeves? This is going to be the last question. We're closing it at 7 o'clock. We're going to see if anybody wants to see. We talked. I told you we're going to be here until 7.
I didn't know I
Um,
talked that much.
it was a good conversation. But what? This is the last question. What
Sure.
are some of your like pet peeves about watching film, creating film, working with filmmakers? What are some of the things that bother you that you think that other people should know not to do?
Arrogance.
Ah, that's a good one.
It's a pet peeve of mine that I'd rather, if you don't know,
Say it.
and we can try to sort it out together to come to, and I say that if I don't know, I say, I don't know, but we could try and work this out, make it work. But don't come in there, you don't know what you're doing and trying to act like you know.
Mm-hmm.
Or you really just don't know, but you're just full of ignorance it's a pet peeve of mine. That's I it's I don't know how to say it. It's a pet peeve
Yeah,
because
that's
now
yeah.
I have to cut through that crap to actually get to where you go. Because sometimes, most of the time, I don't like working with first time directors
Hmm.
because their ego is so fragile. You trying to tell they're sensitive. They think you want to take over their project. And I said, no, I'm trying to help you. I'm not trying to take over. I don't. It's your name that's going to go on the project. That you as the director. But what you're doing is wrong, and I'm trying to help you. It's kind of, you got to find out how to tell them that's not how you do it.
Hmm.
That's
Hmm.
the pet peeve that is. Or and the second pet peeve, and you mentioned it earlier, when people think about the glitz and glamour, they just thinking about the glamour. No, this is a craft. We love the craft, and this is what we like to do. It's not about you.
Oh,
And
yeah.
so it's about the project. So if you could take yourself out of it, that's my pet peeve.
Okay. That makes sense because I mean, working on a film is like a lot of teamwork. And I've been noticing myself lately, I'm more about like working by myself. Like I'm a writer, I write
Yes.
screenplays, but I've been watching this screenwriter on Facebook, and he just put a post up the other day, and he's like, writing is rewriting and rewriting till they even he's on set and he's rewriting and he's getting notes back from his director, and they're just rewriting, and I'm like, ooh, that's a lot. So I mean, and at that level that he is at, he's on a set. They're shooting his movie. Like, you have to keep your ego in check, because when the director says, well, we need to fix this, you can't be like, oh my god, like, I mean, this is my film, like, that's not gonna fly. You need
And
to
they
be
cross out all the lines you wrote and they said, we're not writing that, we're not using that.
right. Yeah, you got to get your ego in check. That's true, definitely.
It's hard for people because I've
Yeah.
been corrected. Uh, What I was working time, one time I was working so hard, I didn't know what the next scene was. I had to lean over and say, so what's the next scene again? Because I was because I was working so hard on the other scene. I said, so what are we doing next? I didn't ask the director, I asked the producer.
Hmm.
And he said, oh, and I had to go back to my sheet. Oh, that's where we are.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Well, this was awesome, Silas. I'm so
thank you. Thank
This is
you.
good,
Thank
good
you.
talk. It
I'm
was different because we had journalists, we had social media strategists, but mostly journalists. And this is a different feel, a different type of different type of information. Not to say that all of them gave the same information, but this is different because a lot of the students that we work with in the classes, they're more producing stuff for studio production and using digital media and things like that. So this is gets people thinking out the box, maybe something different that they could, learn from. So I
I
appreciate your
hope
time.
I
And
helped.
yes, you did. I appreciate all of your
I
help.
answered your
It was
question
good.
and
Yes, you did. You did. But
thank
okay,
you.
so I'm gonna say good night now. I will be in touch. Thank you so much for this, Silas. I really
Thank you.
appreciate it. You have a great night, okay?
You too.
Oh wait, let's see who the Zoom user is. Zoom user, did you have any questions?
Let me can I can they click
Am
on
I
it?
the only Zoom user?
Yes, you are. Did you have any
Okay.
questions?
No, I'm sorry I came on late because I guess you guys are on Eastern time.
Oh, okay.
Time, and I'm like, oh my god. So I did come on the important part.
But you
And
know what?
Good.
We're
what's
gonna
that?
have this streaming on YouTube. So if you don't catch it now, you could catch the talk later on when we post it on YouTube on the mymcm dot org websites.
Okay.
So we're if you how did you find out about us?
Through Eventbrite.
Okay,
And I
so
had it marked way back in February when they started advertising or
uh-huh.
it was on. And then I've been cleaning all day. Friday's my cleaning day. So
Okay.
I was like, oh my God, it is 5 o'clock. And I had to rush on.
No problem. Okay, so if you go back to Eventbrite and you look us up
Hmm.
on YouTube, Yeah, I would say in about a week it should be up. We're gonna edit it and just post it on YouTube so you can see the whole thing. So don't worry about it. You missed it, but you didn't miss it.
Okay. All
Did
right.
you have any questions?
I just this might be, you know, a redundant question because, you know, I missed a lot, but
Mhm.
I wanted to ask him what made him go into filmmaking, and what is his most favorite project that he has worked on, or his prideful project, one that he just the that he thinks is his best work.
So what is your best work, Silas?
Um, all of them are my favorites. I love them for different reasons. Like asking which one is your favorite child. So it's all of them. I love them for different reasons. Um, like one reason, one is one of the events like we cranked for GoGo in DC. My favorite part was the interviews. But
Mhm.
actually, the more fun interviews is what they did say on camera. That was the greatest part. And I developed friendships with all of them. I met them and became friends. That's one of my greatest part of them. And then to see it at the end and to make them know that I meet them, that even if they see me on the street, they offer me, I need you to come to my concert. I want you to say, and for free, I just want you to come out there, you and the lady. And I love that. And to see the artwork, to see your work, and people admire. I'll give one good example. I'm at the telephone company at Sprint, and there was a lady. She was talking about the documentary We Crank, and and she was telling me, "Have you seen it? That you should
Wow.
go check it out." And my wife told me, he was the director of photography, and I just we all started laughing because she was telling me that I should go see the film, and I was like, I'm the one that shot it, but I didn't tell her. My wife told me. So
Being humble and not arrogant. Yep, that's how you do it. All
yeah,
right. Well,
so
thank you for that, Muser. We don't know your name, but thank you. Yeah, check us out on YouTube, and I hope that that answered your question. Have a great night. I will speak to you soon, Silas.
thank you.
Bye.
Bye bye.